What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me? Baby, would you stand and fight?
One of the things that concerns me when I saw the kind of riots that took place a few weeks ago in Madison, it bothers me to see the kind of lawlessness that Madison is willing to put up with. And I know, like, from here in La Crosse County, I just shake my head when I saw that video of the police chief who just surrendered his podium to the rioters. And I mean, why not enforce the law? There's got to be disorderly conduct right there. No one elected those rioters to speak on behalf of the chief of police. So thank you for going down there and taking the video that you did. Actually, I think I'm going to share my screen here just so people can see. You had posted this on Facebook. Let me get it shared here. And you just kind of talk through, what was this experience like on the ground there going through Madison during that riot?
We went there on an early afternoon on a Saturday. It was raining, so we decided, well, let's take a look for ourselves. And so I just had one other person on my campaign team. We didn't have any security, just walking around, seeing how the intersection was completely blocked. EMS, other vehicles couldn't make it through. You think about the impact on a business owner or their employees or the residents that live in that area and how their lives were disrupted. And it didn't have to be that way, because we had one of the candidates for governor condemn this officer without the facts as the investigation was just getting off the ground.
She came out and called it execution. That was so irresponsible.
It was, and we see the consequences when elected officials like her and others say those type of things. And we saw it in the wake of the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, where Governor Evers condemned and convicted the officer without the facts, putting out false information. And then we saw Kenosha burn. We saw the loss of life and the destruction to property and people's lives impacted in such profound and negative ways. And we have an attorney general in both of these circumstances that sat on the sidelines and didn't stand up and let people know in Jacob Blake that, no, what the governor said is not true. There's more information. Stay calm. Let us do our job. Let us investigate this. We'll be transparent with the public and protect the integrity of the investigation. But he wouldn't do it because he wouldn't push back and was too weak to stand up to his own political party, putting his partisan politics over public safety. And now with this Madison situation, with that shooting, we saw him once again put his own partisan politics over public safety, refusing to speak out against his leading candidate for governor, to be a leader, to make sure that we're protecting people in their homes and their businesses and not allowing people to take over an intersection because of what their opinion might be. And people have the right to protest, and we have to protect that, but that doesn't give them the right to take over an intersection. You know, just on Friday night, for example, I was in Norwalk in Monroe County, probably the smallest parade I've ever done, maybe 4 blocks and maybe 100 people. I probably shook hands with every single one of them, but you do permits to close down streets and work with local officials to do that. You don't let people take over streets in those type of circumstances, because then we have a lawless society. And it is the local officials that failed Madison. They failed the police department in not supporting them. And what I can promise everybody in Wisconsin as Attorney General, that will not happen on my watch, because we have the tools to make sure this doesn't happen. We can work with the governor or the chambers of the legislature to authorize the Attorney General to prosecute crime in certain parts of Wisconsin or circumstances with that legislative or gubernatorial approval. We would then work with the governor's office, with the state patrol, the DCI, law enforcement agency under our Department of Justice, and local law enforcement to declare that an unlawful assembly and order people to disperse and leave. And then if they don't, they can be arrested, they can be prosecuted, and they can be held accountable for the impact they're having on those businesses, those employees, and the residents in those areas. If they want to protest, they can. They just don't get to take over an intersection. And we cannot allow that type of mentality to take over in Wisconsin, to have another Kenosha. We saw what happened in Madison in 2020 on State Street and other parts of the city, and what we saw in the Twin Cities. We cannot allow that to happen in Wisconsin. And as Attorney General, I will stand up for the residents and members of our community to ensure that doesn't happen.
I want you, need you.